Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering video. So today I'm going to be looking at the theme deck from the Scourge set, Goblin Mob deck. So it's a mono red deck, and I actually picked this up. I've just come back from a trip to Toronto, and I picked this up in a very good games and card store called 401 Games on Young Street. In fact, they moved since I was there last year, so they're actually on 518 Young Street, but they're called 401 Games, and if you find yourself in Toronto, definitely check them out. I've never seen such a huge collection of board games, and also a very large collection of collectible cards and stuff to do with collectible cards. Anyway, so this, as I've said, is the Scourge deck, the Goblin Mob deck from Scourge. So let's get this open, see what we've got inside. Find it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so let's have a quick look at what this deck contains. So here's our deck list. So we've got 20 basic lands in the form of 20 mountains, and then we've got 2 Forgotten Caves and 2 Goblin Burrows. And then we've got obviously the vast majority of, or a large percentage of the creatures in this deck are goblins, not surprisingly. And obviously another number other of support spells, 7 other support spells. And just have a quick look at playing the deck. It says, welcome to the wonderful world of goblins. So this deck, not surprisingly, is not designed for the long game. So the idea is you get your creatures out quickly and attack with them as quickly as you can. With over 20 creatures that cost 3 or less, you should be able to get out a horde of little monsters before your opponent has much of a defense to set up. So that's really the idea, is to get, you've got low cost creatures, and the idea is really to just get them out before your opponent can really do anything. And then it just goes on to specific ways of dealing with certain problems. So, you know, if your opponent gets out an effective blocker early, and how to sort of clear paths, so to speak. And then, as always, there's a little bit about improving the deck. So they're talking about including more siege gang commanders, war chiefs, drill sergeants, taking out some of the goblins that cost more than 2 mana and replacing with less expensive ones. And obviously, you're looking for goblins outside of the Onslaught block. Because I've got a feeling when a lot of the theme decks back in the day would be specifically cards from the particular set that they were part of. Also in here, and we'll pull this out now, is one of these sort of bonus foil lands that was prominent in early theme decks. So with theme decks, all you get is that that nice land, and then the deck itself. There's no additional boosters. So we'll just quickly go through, and you can see we have mountains in the artwork specific to that set and block it came from. And because of this is an older deck, we're obviously seeing the old style card frames, because this is before they were changed in 8th edition. So that's our 20 basic lands at the way. So now we move on to our non-basic lands. We've got a couple of Forgotten Caves. So Forgotten Cave comes into play tapped. You tap it to add red to your mana pool, and then it also has cycling on it. So obviously if you don't need this card, you can discard the card from your hand and you get to draw another. And there are 2 of those. And Goblin Burrows, which is an uncommon. So you can tap it, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. And for 1 and a red, you can tap it and target goblin gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So that's going to pump any goblin that you have in play. Goblin Grappler. So actually looking at this, judging by the set symbol on here, that it does come from within the actual block. So I'm just checking something. Yeah, so they don't just stick to the set, but they do stick to the block. It says provoke on it. When this attacks, you may have target creature defending player controls untap and block it if able. 2 of those. Goblin Sledder. So you sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. However, as it without obviously activating that ability, the Goblin Sledder is a 1/1 for 1. And it looks like this is going to go through in mana order, so we'll get some idea of the curve. There's 2 of those. We've got a Goblin Taskmaster, another 1/1 for 1 with an ability on it. So 1 colourless and red, target goblin gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It also has morph on it. So if it costs 1 red, you can morph. You may play this face down as a 2/2 creature for 3. Turn it face up any. It's difficult to read in the light here, the red on black. Any time for its morph cost. 2 of those. Goblin Brigand. 2/2 for 1 and a red. Goblin Brigand attacks each turn if able. And there are 3 of those. Scourge Drill Sergeant, which is also a goblin. 1 and a red for a 2/1. Whenever Scourge Drill Sergeant or another goblin is put into your graveyard from play, you may pay 2 red. If you do, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a goblin card, put it into play. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. Scourge Marauder, it's also a goblin. 1 and a red for a 2/1. Morph cost again on it. This one, 2 and a red here. So you can sort of see how that works. So what you do is when you play the card, you can play its alternate cost of 3, which means you play it face down, and if you want to turn it up at any time, you play its morph cost. So that's the order of things. When Scourge Marauder is turned face up, it deals 2 damage to target creature or player. 2 of those. Sparksmith, 1 and a red for 1/1. You tap it, Sparksmith deals X damage to target creature and X damage to you, where X is the number of goblins in play. Flamestick Courier, another goblin. 2 and a red for 2/1. You may choose not to untap Flamestick Courier during your untap step. 2 and a red tap. As long as Flamestick Courier remains tapped, target goblin gets +2/+2 and has haste. So we've got a lot of one-offs here. A Gem Palm Incinerator. There's 2 and a red for 2/1 with cycling for 1 and a red. And also when you cycle Gem Palm Incinerator, you may have it deal X damage to target creature, where X is the number of goblins in play. So, you know, a couple of cards there that are conditional on the number of goblins. Goblin Sky Raider, 2 and a red for a 1/2. It has flying. 2 of those. Nosy Goblin. Sacrifice Nosy Goblin, destroy target face down creature. So obviously with morph in happening at this particular time. It's not surprising to find something with an ability that will deal with destroying target face down creature. So that's 2-1 for a 2 and a red. Rock Jockey, 2 and a red for a 3/3. Another goblin. You can't play Rock Jockey if you played a land this turn. You can't play land if you played Rock Jockey this turn. So that's the downside of a 3/3 for 3. And there are 3 of those. Goblin War Chief, 1 and 2 red for 2/2. Goblin spells you play cost 1 less to play. Goblins you control have haste. Skirt Commando, 1 and 2 red for 2/1. Whenever Skirt Commando deals combat damage to a player, you may have it deal 2 damage to target creature that player controls. And this also has a morph on it of 2 colourless and a red. And there's 2 of those. Goblin Psychopath, 3 and a red for 5/5. So let's see if there's a downside to this. Obviously 5/5 for 4. There's got to be something here. Whenever Goblin Psychopath attacks or blocks, flip a coin. If you lose a flip, the next time it would deal combat damage this turn, it deals that damage to you instead. Reckless 1, haste. Reckless 1's power and toughness are each equal to the number of goblins in play. And that's cost 3 and a red to cast, and obviously the power and toughness is based on that ability. Skirk Volcanist, 3/1, costs 3 and a red to cast, also has morph on it, and the morph cost here is sacrifice 2 mountains. So again, if you play it face down, by activating that ability, as you play it, it's a 2/2 creature for oh, sorry, no, actually I made a mistake there. Sorry, you may pay it face down as a 2/2 creature for 3, and then if you want to flip it, so that's important to remember. So when you want to turn it face up, that's when you incur the morph cost. When Skirk Volcanist is turned face up, it deals 3 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. 2 of those. Siege Gang Commander, so we've got a creature goblin yet again. 2/2 for 3 and 2 red. When Siege Gang Commander comes into play, put 3/1/1 red goblin creature tokens into play. 1 and a red, sacrifice a goblin. Siege Gang Commander deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Goblin War Strike, so we're now moving on to the support cards, the non-creature spells. 1 red, and for that, Goblin War Strike deals damage equal to the number of goblins you control to target player. And there are 2 of those. We've got Carbonize in here. So for 2 and a red, Carbonize deals 3 damage to target creature or player. That creature can't be regenerated this turn. If the creature will be put into a graveyard this turn, remove it from the game instead. So what happens is when the creature dies, effectively you're exiling that creature. And we have, there was 2 of those, and we've got then Sulfuric Vortex, 1 and 2 red. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Sulfuric Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. If a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. Enrage, X and a red, target creature gets +3/+0 until end of turn. Wave of Indifference is our last card in the deck. X and a red, X target creatures can't block this turn. So a very interesting goblin theme deck. In actual fact, going back through, not only are the vast majority of creatures goblins, in fact they are all goblins. So what I suppose this deck does is it gives you the opportunity to just try out goblins, just try lots of different goblins. Now of course if you were building a well-tuned goblin deck, a lot of these goblins would just be too clunky. But I think it is an very interesting starting point if you're exploring the whole sort of goblin tribe. It just gives you something very interesting to play around with. Try some interesting interactions. You know, start taking out some of the less powerful cards. put in, you know, 4 of the more powerful ones where that would be appropriate, and then just again, you know, adding in other Goblin cards from throughout the history of Magic if you happen to have access to those. So there we have the Goblin mob deck from Scourge. Thanks for watching.